And we're back with the Buffalo Juggalo Radio Show. And right now it's time to get schooled by Polmar. And our topic this week is going to be biology. That's right, biology, the study of life. As always, I'll have the note board up online for you to refer to. Alright, so first of all, the main thing about biology is there are certain characteristics that apply to all living organisms. And that's kind of what we're going to look at as far as today's topic. In biology, the area is cells and their structure and things like that. And first of all, it's important to know, what classifies something as a living organism. Well, there are 8 essential life functions that all living organisms, cells or whatever they may be, must carry out. There's 8 of them, and they start out. There's respiration, which is basically, for the most part, breathing. It's more scientific than that, but we'll just keep this simple. Breathing. There's regulation, which is like nerves and hormones, things like that. There's reproduction, which we know what that is. Excretion, which is the removal of waste products. There's growth, which is by increasing in size or cell number, and nutrition, which is basically how one or how an organism ingests its food, or it's how they ingest and process. That's what I'm looking for. How they process their food. There's transport, which is like circulation, and also like if they like absorb water or things like that, like how it moves around through them. And then there is synthesis, which basically is combining smaller substances chemically to form a larger, more complex. So it's kind of like reproduction and nutrition mixed together in a way, I guess. So if something has all of those 8 functions, respiration, regulation, reproduction, excretion, growth, nutrition, transport, and synthesis. If something has all 8 of those functions, it is considered a living organism. Now, there are 4 main building blocks when it comes to a cell. I mean, there's a lot of pieces and parts, of course, which we're going to get to that, but as far as the actual chemicals themselves, the molecules, there's 4 main ones. There's lipids, carbohydrates, nucleic acids, and proteins. And basically, real quick here, lipids, which are known as fats, they play a lot of different roles. They're broken down into individual fatty acids into cholesterol molecules. They're basically used for energy and storing energy. Second is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are like sugars, things like that. Those are quick energy, whereas the lipids are stored energy. Carbohydrates are more of quick energy. Nucleic acids. Those are basically the molecules that help store the information that's used to make proteins. This is kind of where DNA, RNA comes from, things like that. And then proteins themselves are like the main workhorses of the cell. They make up a lot of the pieces of the cell. They also help a little bit of energy as well, but they're kind of the building blocks. They are what the cell is made of, a lot of the pieces. So, what are the pieces of this? We keep saying the pieces. What are the pieces of the cell? Well, so some of you might remember from back in high school, back in school, comparing animal cells and plant cells, and they're both very similar to each other. The difference, the main difference is being plant cells have a cell wall, and they also contain chloroplasts. But I will have the diagram up on the notes as well. But basically, they still share like most of the same pieces, though. Okay, and these pieces that I keep referring to, they're actually called organelles, is the correct term for them. All right, so what are these things, and what are these organelles, and what do they do? Well, the main ones. I mean, there's actually a lot more, but these are the main ones. Well, we already mentioned that plant cells have a cell wall. Animal cells do not have a cell wall. However, animal cells and plant cells both have a cell membrane, which is just basically an outer layer that kind of keeps everything condensed, and it controls what passes in and out of the cell. It's covered in all these little, almost like, gateways or something in a way. Alright, now, of course, all cells have a nucleus, which is basically the control center of the cell. It's like the main brain. And it's also what directs the protein synthesis. But both of these have it. Now, the nucleolus is also, it's included inside of the nucleus. Those are what actually assemble the ribosomes themselves. Now you also have your endoplasmic reticulum, which is it's kind of it's a network of internal membranes, and they form compartments and vesicles. They help with synthesis and the modification of proteins and lipids. It's kind of like your main like hallways, sort of, to get through the cell, how things kind of sort of travel around. The same with the Golgi apparatus. Those also kind of the Golgi apparatus is what packages the proteins for export down through the vesicles of the endoplasmic reticulum. Now you also, let's see what else we have. We have vacuoles, which these are mainly in plant cells. Animal cells have something similar to a vacuole. It's usually referred to as just a vacuole, but it's a little different. But basically what the vacuole is, it's a large membrane-bound sac. So it's kind of like a big sac, sort of just like storage. Like a big empty hole that they just kind of, they store water and sugars, things like that in there. Mainly plant cells. Animal cells have something different, though, like I was saying. So there's something similar. We also have the mitochondria, which are kind of like a bacteria-like element in a way. They have a double membrane, and they carry out cellular respiration. They control the filtration and the things like that. The mighty mitochondria. That's what we used to learn in school. They're kind of like the engine, not the engine, the piston, just kind of constantly pumping the energy. Plant cells have chloroplasts, which is the site of photosynthesis, which is, how they take in carbon dioxide and transfer it into, oxygen and let it back off again. And then we also have centrioles. Centrioles are in animal cells only. And what they are is they're composed of microtubes, and they kind of, and they just kind of anchor and assemble all their microtubules. There's, more little passageways and stuff. Not to move on past that, that was kind of, we were just sort of reading off a diagram. But into something here, something else you might remember from school, the term mitosis. Also the term meiosis, which we'll cover that in a moment, but mitosis. And what mitosis is, it's when cells split apart. It's how they duplicate. Now, the thing with mitosis is that it's the simple duplication of a cell in all of its parts. It duplicates its DNA, and the two new cells have the same pieces and genetic code. So two identical copies come from one original. So you start with one, you get two other that are the same. You get the idea. All right, so there are five basic phases in the life cycle of a cell. It goes prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, interphase. Basically, prophase is when the cell gets the idea that it's time to divide. It gets everything ready. It needs to duplicate the DNA. It gets certain pieces in the right position, and it just generally prepares the cell for the process of division. So into the metaphase, now all the pieces are lining up. They're getting ready for the big split. The DNA lines up along the central axis, and the centrioles send out specialized tubes that connect to the DNA. The DNA has now condensed into chromosomes, so that it's split up, it's broken apart. And two strands of a chromosome are connected at the center with something called a centromere. That's not as important, but the tubes actually connect to the centromere, not the DNA. So into the anaphase, now it's getting going. The separation begins. Half of the chromosomes are pulled to one side of the cell, half go the other way. And then when the chromosomes get to the side of the cell, that's when it moves on into the telophase, which is now the division's kind of finishing up. This is the time when the cell membrane closes in on itself and it splits the cell into two pieces. So which, now we have two separate cells, each with half of the original DNA. And that brings us into the interphase, which is the normal state of a cell. It's kind of like the resting state in a way, normal. And it's just going about its daily business and building itself again and getting ready for the for the next prophase again once all the pieces are there and getting ready to go. Now, that was mitosis. The thing with meiosis is, there's a difference. Okay, mitosis has one division, and meiosis has two divisions. So basically, it does the same thing, but it does it twice. Also, remember that 4 cells are created when there was originally 1. So it's 4 cells with half of the amount of the DNA needed by a cell. So meiosis happens when it's time to reproduce an organism. So instead of dividing it, it's reproducing. The steps of meiosis are simple. It's just 2 cycles of what we just went through, those 5 phases. It's 2 cycles of that. But meiosis happens when it's time to reproduce. It shuffles the cell's genes around. Plants do it, animals do it, fungus do it sometimes. So instead of creating 2 new cells with equal numbers of chromosomes like mitosis, the cell does a second division like soon after the first. But basically, it just works the same sort of way. So let me see. That was everything on the lesson plan. That was a little spotty. I think that looks like that was everything on my lesson plan for today, though. So I'm gonna go ahead then, and I guess that'll wrap up our unit on cells and biology. So we'll go ahead and take us out to a break here, listen to some music, and we'll be back here in a few moments with the Buffalo Juggalo Radio Show.
What's up, everyone? I'm Polmar.
And I'm Trippy Two-Face.
And we're the hosts of the Buffalo Juggalo Radio Show.
You can catch us every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern on Hatchet Radio.
We'll be bringing you all the freshest in underground music news, interviews, featured artists, and so much more.
With a special focus on the 716 and beyond. This is the official broadcast of Buffalo Juggalos.
Come scope us out at hatchetradio.net and hit us up at facebook.com/Buffalo Juggalo Radio Show.
We have tons of contests and giveaways coming up on our page.
So don't sleep on
the Buffalo Juggalo Radio Show, Saturdays at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Only on Hatchet Radio.